From the iconic Baja 1000 that started it all back in 1967 to the cutting-edge trophy trucks tearing up the Mint 400, Desert Buggy Racing is all about horsepower, endurance, and a whole lot of dirt. With suspensions boasting over 30 inches of travel and engines cranking out 900 plus horsepower, these machines are built to dominate the dunes and power through the whoops at over 120 miles per hour. But it's not just about speed, it's about survival. Drivers battle mechanical failures, brutal terrain, and their own limits, proving that in the desert, only the toughest make it to the finish line. Besides the Baja 1000, other famous events include the Mint 400, King of the Hammers, which blends rock crawling and desert racing, and the Score Baja 500. Each is known for its unique challenges and wild desert action. With the variety in this high-octane motorsport, it's not going anywhere in the near future except through the dirt. Welcome back to The Shop Mini RC, everybody. I'm Ken, and today we're looking at the new WLtoys. Boom, right there. Speed Race, Speed Rage, not sure. Either way, it's a 124028 WLtoys Desert Buggy. It's got like a beetle-looking front end or frog-looking front end. I'm not sure. Either way, it's going to be a cool-looking truck for sure. We're going to open it up. We're going to check it out. It's got all kinds of good stuff. Brushless, all metal gears. We're going to dive into it. It says 60 plus kilometers an hour. We'll see. It's got a phone holder. We'll check that out. More goodies on the bottom. More goodies. Less goodies on the top. Sorry. All right, let's dive in. All right, guys, we're going to open this thing up, see what it's about. I do want to give a huge shout out to Makerfire. Those guys sent this thing over for us to check out. Definitely check out Makerfire. They have a ton of awesome products on their site, fast shipping, great customer service, and yeah, always have cool stuff there for you to check out in the RC or drone space. And this WLtoys looks cool. Like, it's different for sure, but it looks straight up cool. Look at that thing. Here's our transmitter, a familiar WLtoys transmitter. I think they use this on their little 24th and 28th scale trucks and cars, so that's cool. What is this? Just like a generic, I don't know, receiver switch. Not sure. Looks like it wants to be a Noble NB4. It's not, but it wants to be. Some AAAs in there, so we'll get to that here in a minute. Let's look at this truck, though. It looks great. Look like there's tons of lights. Those frog eye lights there. Some rock lights here. They adjust sideways. I wonder if they can turn to the side a little. Maybe underneath you have to loosen them up. They definitely can move up and down though, so that's cool. Light bar up here. Some flag lights, I guess. Looks like LEDs up in here. That's cool. I like the scale details. The exhaust. Some fans, intercooler fans, or whatever fans. I thought those were fire extinguishers, but they're not. They actually look like they're bump stops, but they're mounted here versus on the suspension, which is interesting. Wheelie bar, spare tire, usable spare tire, so that's cool. There's the fire extinguisher. Our dudes inside even have the red shift knob there. Very cool. Dig that. There's even some printed details on the dash. They look like they're a little off in their printing. Just a little bit. Looks like they've slid down. I don't know if you can see that, but there's print there, so that's cool. Race Superpower. Always love the names and stickers they put on these guys. Interesting. A couple of screw holes without screws in them. Interesting, interesting. Nice aluminum chassis. Seems like some pretty chunky A-arms here. Again, we'll open this guy up. I do dislike that it's Phillips head. I hate Phillips head. Man, I wish that that would just become a standard to use. The hex hardware, Phillips head's such a pain. Especially when you're getting in there and you're really cranking on it. Your hands get tired because you constantly got to put pressure on it to get it to break loose without stripping. So you're always putting in lateral force and turning it. Such a pain in the butt. Either way, hopefully that'll be standard soon. Come on, WLtoys. I love the look though. This guy really reminds me of, they have a little 24 scale. It's built on their like K969 989, but it's a buggy. Let me get it. Yeah, look at this little guy. It's basically the same thing, just smaller, tiny little version. It's got the longer front end. Looks like a little frog eyes. Very cool. It's got the light bar. It's even got the same little bump stop looking things. Just not an open cage there, but yeah, same buggy. Very cool. I love that. That's fun. That makes it fun for sure. Well, and the fact that it's brushless, and I'm pretty sure it's 3S capable, so we'll definitely get into that as well. Let's go ahead and open it up. Now this guy does feel a little bouncy here. They're supposed to be oil-filled shocks, but they definitely don't feel that way. They feel bouncy. You can see it just slams down. You can kind of see it bouncing. Yeah, especially that rear. Definitely doesn't seem oil-filled. Maybe they have a lighter oil in the back than they do the front, because the front feels a little bit more dampened than the rear. You can kind of see how that back just kind of bounces. Maybe they did that on purpose because they want you to have that kind of scale experience of that bounciness in the back. Either way, we're going to open up some shocks and we will check it out. We'll probably open up the rears. That way, if we have to replace oil, which we will if we open them up, we can replace it with a little bit thicker oil, help get rid of some of that bounciness. Anyway, let's pull these off. Kind of wish these bobby pins had clips, you know, like the captured pins, tethers, kind of like this guy here. You get the little rubber tethers. That would have been nice. I love rubber tethers on my body pins, especially for bashers like this, just because they always tend to get lost. Your rack, they slide out. All right, looks like we got a little light controller in the body here, right up here, for our headlights, side lights, light bar, all that. Unplugs directly from the receiver, so that's cool. Looks like it's a 4-channel receiver here. And it's a separate receiver, so it's not an ESC receiver combo, not a 2-in-1. It's completely separate, which means if you want to swap this over to a better transmitter, you can. That is super nice. I love that. I hate when they do 2-in-1s. I get that it takes up less space and maybe can be a little bit cheaper for production, but I would much rather just have it separate. That way, if we want to swap in our own receiver, we can. What kind of battery do we have here? Going to be on a Dean's connector. It's pretty standard for this scale for WLtoys and other Chinese manufacturers. There we go. Looks like we're at a 2200 milliamp hour, 7.4 volts. So it comes with the 2S, 2200 milliamp hour. Should be pretty good runtime. This looks like a pretty decent sized battery tray. While we're in there, I guess we can measure this battery for you. That way you know what batteries you can run. Looks like we're about 35 millimeters wide. 100 millimeters in length, you know, depending on your wires here, but 100, 102, somewhere in there, 100. Probably have a little bit more in the actual tray itself. Let's see if I can get in here. Yeah, there's a little bit more. Depends on the Velcro and the padding, the little padding right here. But yeah, so 100 by 35, and then it's only 14.5 thick, but you can definitely go thicker. You have tons of space there for that. So that'll be super easy to get something that's almost, you can even do double the size. So if you found something that was the 100 by 35, but twice as thick, that would fit in here just fine. And you would get like 4,000 milliamps. So tons of time. It's interesting that the, hold on. Yeah, the kind of the wires here don't have any exit from the tray. So the wires just press onto the tray here, which is interesting. Like so. Doesn't sit completely flush. Also, there is, I hate this, there is a screw spot here. Is there an actual screw going in there? Let's see. Yep, right there. And the battery sits on this little kind of extruded portion of the tray. I don't know why they do that. They need to put more padding in here, cover that up, or just kind of make those much lower profile. Because I don't like the battery sitting on that when you're, especially in a basher. Like in a race car, maybe not so bad, but in a basher, it's literally sitting right on that little protrusion, which could cause damage to the battery, dent it, you know. So just be aware of that. Maybe we'll dremel this down or round it off or put some extra padding in there. We'll see. Either way, good size strap here. Like I said, probably be able to fit a nice sized battery in there. Here, actually, I want to test something. Got these Larlo batteries. They're pretty much the same size, almost exact same size, just 3S. So 2200 3S. I wouldn't be surprised if they're the same battery on the inside. Same cells, just, you know, 3 cells versus 2 cells. Yep, that guy will fit in there. No problem. You'll need an adapter or you'll need to change your plug-ins, but that's no problem. We have adapters to go to Dean's. These are kind of the most common. This is an XT60. This is a Dean's. So super easy to get that switched over. So we'll be able to run 3S using the Rollarlo batteries, and there's tons of other batteries out there that'll work. So not too worried about that. All right, let's look over at the rest of the electronics here. What does this say? Warning, pay attention to scraping your hands. Don't scrape your hands on the fans, guys. I do like that there's a fan on there. We've got the heat sink here. So hoping to find some of the electronics information in their manual that's included. We've got to go over this, but it does have all the exploded views, replacement parts, stuff like that. But I didn't see anything regarding the ESC or the motor, even in the replacement parts section here. It's all just the hardware. There's a servo, but I don't see ESC or motor in here. It's a battery, a brushless receiver, but again, no ESC, no motor. Interesting. But great exploded views, so I dig that. And then just some how to use and the basic stuff there. Okay. Yeah, pretty interesting. There's no ESC motor information in there. Also comes with a USB charger and a little T-wrench. So that's everything in the box. No extra goodies, no extra wheels, tires, batteries, nothing like that. At least not in what we got. There might be other packages offered out there. But back to the ESC and motor. The ESC is a 45 amp ESC. Uses bullet plugs, so that's nice if you need to switch over your motor. It's non-censored, which is pretty typical. And then the motor is a 2800 kV motor. It's a 2852 sized. And again, I'm digging that it's got the heat sink on there and the fan, so that's nice. That definitely helps. Servo is not quite a full size, not quite a micro, so it's kind of that, that 12 scale size, so that makes sense. We'll see how that looks like it's going to handle when we start powering it up and seeing the speed and power of that servo. I do like all the metal here. Looks like there's a servo saver on that, which is good, and it's adjustable. You can see the red collar in there to adjust that servo saver tension, which is nice. Adjustable turnbuckles, which is awesome. Some pretty beefy looking drive shafts here, dog bones, both front and rear, so that's good. Here, let's go ahead and measure those. Can I get a measure on them? Looks like they're 4.5 millimeters, so that seems good. I feel like some of the older WLtoys trucks, the larger trucks, kind of have had very, very small dog bones and drive shafts. Open diffs, obviously, on a buggy like this, and we'll have to see what it looks like in here to see if there's like a slipper clutch or if it's just a straight up pinion to spur gear on the main center drive shaft. Yeah, overall pretty cool looking truck though. I think this is going to be a blast. I love the way it looks. It's unique, which definitely is hard to do nowadays. I feel like every truck's been done, so having a unique body does not bother me, even if it's kind of wild and out there, kind of eccentric looking. Totally okay with that. Like I said, I'd love to see more stuff that's just kind of different when it comes to bodies and whatnot. We get a lot of the same, so. We will go ahead and compare this guy to some other rigs just so you can get a feeling of the size and dimensions of it. But I think for now, we're going to go ahead and get some batteries in here, power it up, kind of show you just the lights and the functionality of the transmitter. And then we will open it up. We'll pull off the wheels and tires, give you some measurements there. Like I said, we'll do a shock. We'll open up in here and we'll just see where it takes us. We'll see where it goes. Again, I hate working on Phillips head stuff. It just is more exhausting for my hands and my patience, especially if they strip. But we'll see how far we get. I'm definitely digging these wheels, simulated beadlocks, very cool. They even got some paneling here, Lexan paneling on the wheelie bar, which is very cool. So good attention to detail, guys. WLtoys kind of killing it lately. This makes it feel cheapy though. I don't like the bounciness, right? Hopefully the plastic is nice and durable. It does feel kind of stiff. It's not quite as bendy as a lot of the other rigs. Kind of in the same range. They usually have a little bit of bendy plastic, which is kind of good for durability, but this feels very stiff and rigid. So I'm kind of concerned about that. Man, this bumper's got no flex at all too. And the bumper itself, this does, right? But this brace, the impact brace here, which is where you want it to kind of be squishy so that this can bend in and absorb the impact that the whole truck feels, that should be a little bit squishier. It's like a brittle plastic. So that worries me. Sometimes when you hit things, you don't even realize it. You'll break like your A-arm here, right? Or a knuckle, usually kind of an A-arm if they break in this area. And sometimes they don't break because you hit them like this. Sometimes they break because you hit it square in the center and the inertia and force of the wheel and all that tries to slam forward because it hits so hard on the front and you can cause it to break and whatnot. Most of the time it is like this, but sometimes it is just from hitting straight on, and just the shock through the system can cause things to get cracks in them and things of that nature. So yeah, I'd like a better impact up here in the front, impact brace. But But everything else, you know, should be good. Again, as long as this isn't too brittle. You can see a little bit of twist here. See that? I can twist it a little bit. That's good. Well, there you go. A little bit there too. That's a good thing usually if the plastic allows you to twist just a little bit. All right, let's go ahead and get some batteries in, power it up, and yeah, then we can dive deeper. Now, before we dive any further into this thing, I want to give one more shout out to Makerfire. Check out their website, guys. You can see they have tons of cool stuff, all kinds of upgrades for WLtoys, even ARMA stuff. They carry FMS products, MJX, Hypergo products, Turbo Racing, you know, WPL, ZD Racing, UDIRC, all kinds of different brands. So definitely worth checking out if you're looking for some of those off brands or entry-level brands, or even just awesome upgrade parts for all those different brands. Definitely worth checking out. Again, we'll have a link to this guy to Makerfire. If you want to pick it up from them, you can. If not, you can find it other places as well, and probably on Amazon would be my guess, but definitely check out Makerfire. Like I said, they've got fast shipping, great customer service. I've never had an issue with them. Super awesome retailer. So yeah, anyway, let's get into this guy a little more. We went in through 4 AAAs into this guy. Boom. Kind of wish they were AA. They tend to last a little longer. You'll see the light flash here until you power up your truck. I always like to make sure I power up the truck off the table, especially when they're bigger, just in case there's trim issues or anything like that. Seems like we're okay here. Oh yeah, look at that. There we go. Seems totally fine. So very simple transmitter. There's only a steering trim and then a throttle trim. Now it says throttle trim, but I don't think it is because it's maxed out right now. So I think that's actually a dual rate. So there's max speed when we turn it all the way down. So if you've got kiddos or you're newer, you want to make sure nothing gets broken. Or you can crank it up all the way. Woohoo! Feels like there's a little delay. Definitely a delay in reverse. It's a forward brake, reverse, a forward, brake, reverse. There's a little throttle delay there. Well, it seems like the throttle delay is only after braking. See that? Actually, maybe it's only after reversing. So our brake, throttle, brake, throttle seems fine, but if we reverse and then forward, it's got a little delay. I wouldn't be surprised if they put that in there to help reduce blowing out gears and whatnot. Now, it's supposed to be all metal gears through this thing. We'll open it up and we'll check some stuff. But it should be all metal gears. It should be all bearings. But yeah, my guess is that delay to reverse and that delay to forward from reverse, and so that you're not reversing it and then full throttle and you just strip out all the gears. Giving it that little delay should help prevent that. Yeah, because once you're in reverse, there's no real delay. But then to go forward, there is a delay. Then once you're in forward, no real delay. Anyway, all right, so there's that. There's also this phone holder, like we had mentioned. I don't know how much I trust this little guy. Kind of floppy. Guess it's going to depend on how big your phone is. Well, it's not going to hold the phone with a big case. If your phone's thick, that's not going to fly. Oh yeah, there's no way. Part of that's the case. If we grab a smaller phone here, remember these old iPhones? Yeah, then you're fine. But there's no case on there. And that's an old one. So I don't know how usable this is going to be, but again, it tucks away pretty good, so don't have to worry about it too much. Steering feels very responsive. Also like that there's kind of the thumb steer here if you want to use that. So that's nice. And then this is our steering trim. So it's not a dual rate. It is a trim. Seems good. Let's hear a servo saver working there a little bit because the servo goes past the endpoint. Right there is like the max, and then there's a little bit extra. Seems good though. Seems fairly strong. Should be good at speed though, for sure. Again, it's not a rock crawler. You don't need to have a ton of torque in the steering. You'd rather have speed because you're not really getting stuck in rocks and having to pull your steering through rocks. You're really at speed moving, and so you'd rather just have that responsiveness more than torque. So having the servo saver is definitely a good thing. Gives you good responsiveness, and then again, it seems like the servo's got plenty of torque, but that servo saver is going to prevent us from blowing it out too bad. So that's nice. All right. Well, like I said, this is on 2S, guys. That is no joke. Yeah, I can feel it like twist when I'm full throttle and I'm turning it. I can feel it just because of the inertia from the wheels and tires spinning. Crazy. Anyway, check out those lights, guys. Freaking awesome on the lights. Kind of wish there was a way to turn them off. I wish there was you've got a 4-channel receiver, but our transmitter's only 2 channels. There's no extra channel there. I feel like they could have gone a little bit better on the transmitter. I wonder if anything will bind to this, like other RTR transmitters. If you know, put it down in the comments below if there's any other RTR transmitters or any transmitters that'll bind to this receiver, because it is, again, it's a nice little 4-channel receiver here. Not, nothing crazy, but again, it's a 4-channel, so it would be nice to be able to turn the lights on and off, or hook up other stuff if you wanted to. I don't know what. It's a Dasher, but transmitter doesn't feel amazing, but it doesn't feel horrible. I kind of wish it was a little smaller. You don't need all this bulky crap for this RTR, especially for how light it feels. Again, that's another reason I like AA's versus AAA's. It puts a little extra weight in the transmitter and makes it feel good. Anyway, let's go ahead and turn it off, and we'll open it up, start digging stuff apart. I do really like that the body comes off with just 2 screws here. They're kind of these shouldered kingpin style screws. Super easy to pull off. Then you just unplug your lights and you get the whole body off. Again, here's the inside of that body. Light board for those front lights. Light board for your LEDs up here and your front lights here. Looks like these things are kind of just mounted to the chassis. I don't think you can really rotate them much. They're mostly forward facing, but you can, again, adjust them up and down, but nothing really holds them. You can't tighten them, so they'll just move back to wherever the wire behind them kind of pushes them. But they're very cool looking. Again, awesome scale details on this thing. Love the interior. Love the dudes in their heads. Their helmets look great. Shift knob, all that good stuff. It's even screwed in, so if you ever wanted to pull this stuff out, use it on another rig, or pull it out to paint it, you totally could. Pretty awesome. And here you go. Give yourself a look in the back here. The front. All right, let's go ahead and pull a wheel off. There's a 5.5 millimeter box to pull off a wheel. There we go. Let's go ahead and measure. See what our hexes are. My guess is they're 12s. Yeah, 12 millimeter hex. Recently I had somebody asking me how thick they are on other rigs. It's like 4, almost 5, 4.8, almost 5. Don't lose your pins here. But yeah, it's a 12 millimeter hex, so you're gonna be able to fit 12 millimeter wheels and tires, which you can find pretty much everywhere. As far as the insides here for clearance on your knuckles and your control arms, looks like you're gonna need at least 49 millimeters, 50 millimeters from what it looks like. Mind you, you'll probably go smaller, at least on the rear. Let's see what the front looks like. I don't lose my pin. We'll measure that in a minute. But it looks like our fronts, you're gonna have to worry about your steering mostly here and your steering links. Almost always the case, but yeah, you might be able to get something that's just a little bit smaller, maybe 2 millimeters on each side, so 4 millimeters smaller. But again, kind of doing that at your own risk. Yeah, 50. I'd say 46 to 50 is probably going to be safe. That'd be my guess. All right, as far as this pin, axle pin, looks like it's only a 1.5 millimeter. Kind of wish with this bigger, a little bit bigger rigs, they're not 16th scale. It's considered a 12th scale, so it's a little bit larger, and it is a basher. Kind of wish we had a little bit bigger pin there. Mind you, it is pretty wide. So let's see, where did our hex go here? Like the length of the pin is a pretty good size. Sometimes they put short pins in there, then they strip out the hexes here. But these look like they're going to fit nice and snug and almost the whole way across. So that's good. That's good. Our stub shafts here, they go to 4 millimeter, it looks like. Yeah, 4 millimeter, but then the threading drops down to 3 millimeter. So keep that in mind. And like I said, the axle shafts here, they're like 4.5. So it goes 4.5 down to 4, down to 3. Yeah. There's bearings in there, so that's good. And this plastic does feel very solid. It's not like, again, it's not bendy at all. It's very rigid. So I kind of worry on that a little bit. I do like the aluminum pivot pin retainers, caster block, if you will. Is that a caster block? I don't know. Tell me in the comments. What are you calling these guys here? Are they caster plates? They're basically the pivot pin retainers. It looks like it is held in by a kingpin that goes to a nut here. So there's a nut on this side, the kingpin on this side. So we should be able to back that out, but you are going to need to hold the nut. I do want to open up this diff and this motor plate in here. Take a look at that, see what's going on there. None of this looks waterproof, by the way. I just throw that out there. This does not look like a waterproof ESC, or a waterproof receiver here, but you know, it might be okay. You could always open it up and conformal coat the parts that you can open. You're not going to be able to do that with the motor, but the motors are usually fine. There's usually not an issue with getting water in the motors. It's more getting it in the receiver. That's usually the issue. And the servo. I highly doubt the servo is waterproof. I lied. The servo on the box does say waterproof, so maybe it is. Maybe it is. We can maybe pull that guy out and give it a look. I don't know. We'll see where we are. Total diameter on the tire. Looks like we're right around 90 millimeters, 91 millimeters-ish. Yeah, call that 91 millimeters. Again, the wheel itself, right around that 50 mark. Okay, the width, 35, 36, 37, yeah, 37. 37 and a half. Yeah, we'll call it 37. All right, let's go ahead and open up the center diff or center gear and the pinion. So spur and pinion. Ugh, I hate Phillips heads, man. Because you're always having to push down to work on it. So we went in and popped our 4 Phillips head screws out. This guy just lifts up. It is still attached in the front. Looks like this is an aluminum motor mount here. And then we do have a plastic spur gear. So that's interesting. I thought it was all metal gears throughout, but it's not. There's a plastic spur gear here. Let's go ahead and pull these 2 screws out here. And we'll see if we can see the pinion there. Popped out those 2 screws, and this lifts right out. And now we can kind of see our pinion there. It looks like the motor mount does have a second hole there. My guess is, oh, there's 3 holes there actually. You can kind of see 1, 2, 3. So maybe you can get some different size pinions in there if you wanted to go larger or smaller. There is room in the case here for a larger pinion. Trying to see there's not really any grease in there. I guess you're not really going to use a ton of grease when you're going against plastic. If it were metal on metal, you definitely want some grease. I don't know. Some people like greasing up metal onto plastic. Some don't, just because it attracts more dirt. We're going to leave it as it is for now. It's pretty easy to access, which is nice. No slipper clutch of any kind, though. It's just a solid gear. So just keep that in mind. As far as if we had to replace that gear, it looks like there's a little cover here. We can pop that off. There you go. It goes in there like so. And there's the bearing in there. I'm sure this will come right out as we start to pull this rear end apart. So once we pull our screws out there, there's 2 here. And I believe there's probably some in the back. We might have to pull this whole rear piece off to get to that, but we'll see. We'll see. Let's see where we got to go. Looks like we're able to pull this wheelie bar off very easily with just 4 screws. 2 screws here in the shock tower, which is a nice metal shock tower, and then 2 screws here in the back that go into that caster block or pin retainer. Now I noticed when I pull these off and pull these 2 screws out, this pin retainer kind of sits loose. So I don't know if those screws are required for that. It definitely feels like it's still, you know, retained. It's not like popping off, but it is definitely looser without those screws in there. So just keep that in mind. If you wanted to pull off the wheelie bar, I would definitely put some screws back in there. Okay. Then we'll go ahead and pull the 2 screws out here in our diff housing, and we're going to pull the 2 screws out here in our diff housing. See if we can get her open. All right, we got the screws out of here. Go ahead and put them here. Now, just a little tip as you're taking things apart that you've maybe never taken apart before. Maybe you're new. Maybe this is your first RC car. When you're taking screws out, put them in an orderly fashion. So kind of like the order in which you take them out of the car, put them in kind of little groupings so that you know where those things go when you put them back. If you just kind of put them in a bin, or even one of these magnetic screw holders, if they're not in any kind of order, you can mix up the screws, and then you're wondering why things don't go all the way in or why things strip out because you got the wrong screws. So I like to try to put them in an order, kind of, this is the first screws I took out down to the most recent screws I took out, kind of. These are the wheelie bar just because they're separate. These are my diff housings. This is the motor, the top plate here, and this right here is the final part of the top plate. Anyway, just some logic in how you lay your screws out. That way you can put it back together. It helps you remember where things go. All right, and with those 4 screws out now, this guy should come apart no problem. And it does, look at that. And there's our diff, nice and greased up in there. Let's go ahead and see if we can get this guy out. There we go. Now, if we needed to, we could always pull a shock off, and that would allow this whole thing to kind of flip open. I'm gonna see if I can do it without pulling the shock off. All right, let's pull a shock off. We're gonna be pulling them off anyway. We'll snag one of these guys real quick. Same size as the wheel nut, which is nice. And there we go. Spacer, screw, and then this guy should open up a lot more now. And maybe we need to pull one of these off. Maybe? Come on now. This diff should be able to come out, no problem. Nope, we're gonna have to pull this guy off too. What is going on there? Is that a hex? Is that our first hex? Sure is. So it looks like that's a 2mm hex on that ball joint. And now that will flip right over, super easy peasy, and that allows us to pull out our diff here. Diff is plenty greased up. That's nice. Does feel a little chunky in there when you compress it. If you compress these cups together, you can kind of feel the chunkiness, but that's fine. They shouldn't really be compressed together, but it is all ball bearings, so that's cool. Let's go ahead and open this diff up. It doesn't feel like there's a lot of thick grease in there. It feels fairly loose, which again, depending on how you drive and the kind of terrain you're on, maybe you want it loose like this, or maybe you want to stiffen it up, put some real thick grease in there. I've even heard of people people like us putting silicone earplug pieces into there to help kind of just lock it up if you wanted a locked diff for some reason. Not really ideal in something that goes fast, but we've done it in like rock crawlers or kind of rock bouncers, Ultra 4 type stuff where you're going fast, but you're also needing more traction on rocks and whatnot. So sometimes you'll lock those diffs up. Anyway, let's go ahead and open this up too. Go ahead and set this aside. We do have a loose dog bones here. We do have a metal pinion here. And that guy will pull right out, and I assume the front's going to come out the exact same way. All right, popped out the 4 screws for our diff here. Trying to avoid getting too much grease on my hands. And they are greased up in there. Just feels like it's a little thin. The grease is kind of thin. Let's see, does this just pop out? How are these set in there? Oh, there is a screw. Phillips head screw holding your sun gear on. This is called a sun gear. This is the ring gear. This is the sun gear. And then inside here, those 4 gears are your planetary gears because the planetary gears rotate around the sun gear. Okay? But it is plenty greased up. Like I said, if you want to go thicker, you can go thicker and kind of stiffen up that rear end or that front end, depending on how you drive and the kind of terrain you drive in. But that's all metal gear, so that's good. Kind of curious if our pins, let's see, is our pin metal? Yeah, our pins are metal, of course. So I've seen plastic ones before, actually, where the whole center star is like a single plastic piece. Not good at all. But these are metal, so that's good. The housing is plastic, so just be aware when we screw these back in, don't over tighten them. If you over tighten them, you could strip them out. You could also cause binding in the gear set. So just keep that in mind. Just kind of snug them in, make sure they're nice and snug. You're good to go. I'm gonna get this guy back together. We're gonna go ahead and get this back in the truck, get the truck back together, and get into the shock. One thing I want to point out, just for anybody who's newer, make sure your diff goes in the right way. You could theoretically fit it in here like so, go in there, and you're good to go, screw it in, and then you're going to wonder why your car's not turning anymore, or it seems like it's binding, or your front and rear tires are going opposite directions. Because when you flip your diff, if it flips to this side of the pinion there, it's going to spin the opposite direction of being on this side of the pinion. So just make sure your diff is on the correct side, the side you pulled it out from. Luckily on these, the diff housing has a little groove you can see right there for that ring gear to drop down into. So yeah, you're good there. All right, we got that all back together. I did want to point out that in the booklet here, they mentioned the planetary gears as an asteroid group, which is interesting. And then they call the sun gears large planetary. They also label the teeth size. So this is our ring, 30 tooth. Our sun gears are 24 tooth, and our planetary gears are 10 tooth. But then and our slowdown gear, or the main ring gear, or right here, you know, our ring and pinion, that main center gear doesn't have a tooth count. So I don't know what that is. But then our main motor pinion is going to be a 27 tooth pinion. So that's all in the manual. The only thing that doesn't have a tooth count, like I said, is the main ring, or main gear, whatever you want to call that. Tell me in the comments, what do you call that gear? It's not a slipper gear. It's not a differential. It's not a center diff. I guess just the main gear, whatever. Either way, they call it a slow down large, no tooth count. So I'm not sure there. And there's even our 12 tooth for the active 12 tooth active teeth, and that's our end gears for our drive shaft ends. Cool. Tons of good stuff in here. All right, we got the whole setup here all put back together. Diff's back in there. I went ahead and pulled off the rear A-arm and hinge pin, pulled it out, pulled the arm off so I could show you this. It's part of the, I guess, caster block or hinge pin capture block. And you can flip the bushing that the hinge pin sits in. So you could flip it so that it will pull in the A-arm and change your toe, basically. It's not really just toe, because toe is usually just here, right? It's the whole A-arm though. So your A-arm will move from being in a position like so to like so. So you get a little bit of adjustment there with this little bushing here. So that's cool. I definitely dig that. Like I said, you just pop that out and flip it. The inner little bushing or pin retainer is symmetrical, so that doesn't change anything. And then the fronts are symmetrical as well. So the fronts can't really be adjusted as far as that's concerned when it comes to, you know, the angle of your A-arm. Your toe obviously would be adjusted through your tie rods here. Cool. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get this back together, and then we are going to go through a shock. I'm going to go ahead and pull the shocks off, the rear shocks at least, because I do feel like I want them to be a little bit thicker oil so they're less bouncy, just a little bit. We'll see how much oil is in there. They do feel dampened, and they feel super smooth. Kind of hear them in there, but I think it just needs thicker oil maybe. Like I said, I think they probably left the oil kind of thin because they wanted that bounciness, so that it's kind of got a cool scale look to it, because just the rear bounces a little bit more than the front. But that's definitely going to make it not handle as well. So again, we'll see what we've got when we open it up, and then we're going to have to refill it after we open it up anyway, so we'll probably go with a little bit thicker oil. All right, we got the shock coming out, and I just wanted to show this stuff. We've got adjustment here on the shock tower, which is nice. Also adjustment here for our tie rod. So you can adjust that, the angle of that, and then also here, there's another point of adjustment, which is nice. And then on our A-arm here, or control arm, we've got 2 spots for the shock. So the shock's got kind of 4 different adjustment points, and then 5 right here on our tie rod. So that's nice. All right, let's dive into the shock. So we'll go ahead and pull our spring retainer off here. Some fairly thick springs. Give you the dimensions here. Spring length, 46.5, 46. Yeah, 46, and then diameter of the spring is going to be 1.1, 1.2, almost 1.2. Shaft here, it's going to be 3 millimeter shaft. And just in case you're looking just for like clearance reasons, the widest part of the shock is 17 millimeters. That's our adjustment color. They're all metal shocks, which is nice, with the exception of the link end on both sides, which is fine. I like the link ends to be plastic on bashers, although this feels like it's the same very hard plastic. I prefer this plastic to be a little bit more bendy. Actually, it's got a little bit of bend to it. So hopefully it's durable and can absorb that shock. I definitely like the link ends being plastic just because it does help absorb some of the impact. And oh man, Yeah, they might be a little overfilled here. But that you can absorb the impact without bending the shock shaft or the link ends or other parts of the build. There's our tool here. So having some shock tools is definitely nice because they're aluminum, and aluminum is going to be less likely to mar up any part of the shock. If you're using pliers and stuff like that, you're gonna mar up your shock shaft, especially the shaft, right? Like that's what this is for, is to hold your shock shaft so you can pull your link end off. If you're using pliers to do that, you're gonna mar up that shock shaft, and then your shock will tear up your O-rings that are in there and just not be smooth anymore. So it pretty much destroys the shock if you mess up that shock shaft. So having some nice shock pliers will definitely help prevent that because they're a soft aluminum, so they're not going to beat up the shaft too bad. If at all, they shouldn't, because it's a harder metal than the pliers. All right. Hopefully we have a bladder here. We do. So this bladder will help prevent cavitation. Cavitation is when the air bubbles get in there and kind of mix with the oil and makes the oil change viscosity because it's mixed with air. So ideally you get all the air out of the shock oil, and then the bladder helps basically keeps a good seal with the oil without, and allows the oil to move, push and compress that bladder without causing, leaks or pushing and compressing outside of the actual shock housing. It just gives it a little bit of room because you've got that little bit of air in there on the other side of the bladder that can compress, right? But it's not just air to the oil. It's oil, bladder, air, not just oil, air, because just oil, air, again, will create bubbles and cavitation. So this is a fairly thin oil. Also, what's going to matter a lot is kind of what our little bypass valve is here. If the holes are bigger, obviously you need much thicker oil. The bigger the holes, the thicker the oil to get it to dampen more. So we've just got 3 little holes here, nothing too crazy. Now, before we pull this all the way out, you always want to loosen up this shock seal retainer, the bottom portion here. The reason for that is if you keep this compressed, all the O-rings in there compressed, oh, it's pretty tight. If all those O-rings stay compressed and you pull the shock shaft through, you're potentially going to damage the O-rings because the shock shaft has threading on the end. I'll show you in a minute here. That spring retainers, or the shock stack seal stack, is very tight. Man, why is that so tight? It's almost like it's cross-threaded. All right. So we have a bushing here for the cap. It's going to help prevent leaking. So that goes in there like so. And then now these O-rings are decompressed, right? When this is on there, it compresses them and keeps the O-rings tight against the shock shaft. But if you pull this shaft out through those O-rings with them being compressed, you could very easily damage the O-rings. So I always recommend you loosen that up before you pull this out. And then let's go ahead and see, let's go ahead and see what our seal stack looks like. There we go, that's pretty typical. So O-ring, is that an O-ring or bushing? 2 O-rings and a bushing. So it's going to be bushing, O-ring, O-ring, bushing. Sometimes there'll be a plastic bushing between the O-rings. Sometimes there'll just be 1 O-ring. This seems pretty good, shouldn't leak. The O-rings feel nice and smooth against the shaft, so that's good. And yeah, that's everything there. So very, very simple, pretty typical design. I don't see any flaws with it. So some decent shocks. Like I said, I think the only thing they need is oil, the correct oil. They were very filled though, almost overfilled. You saw it kind of rebound under compression. That generally means they're a little overfilled. Some people like to do their shocks that way. Some people would prefer there to be no change in the shaft. When you push the shaft in, it stays in. When you pull the shaft out, it stays out. That's kind of a good balance in how much shock oil is in there. And yeah, sometimes people like a little bit of rebound without the spring. So it just kind of depends on your driving style and how you want it. This is the first time I've seen a shock end like this though. It's got a little pin, and that's what's holding this together. Sometimes it's a screw. But yeah, it's the first time I've seen just like kind of a axle shaft pin holding in the valve, the bypass, or the, you know, the pass-through valve. Anyway, all right, let's get this guy back together. I'll go ahead and fill it up with some oil. I think we're going to probably do some 60 weight. It's thicker oil for sure. And yeah, kind of made a mess here. Just wanted to show this. It wasn't cross-threaded, but there was some form of thread locker or Loctite on the their little cap retainer here. So that's kind of why it was so tight. But we're good. No cross-threading. I actually think we're going to go real heavy. Not super, I mean, it's not 100 weight, but 90 weight. We'll see how that feels. And yeah, you don't want to have it too much rebound or lack of rebound in the rear, just because you want the rear to rebound quickly enough to maintain traction. So it kind of makes sense to have kind of thinner oil in the rear. I just don't like how bouncy it is. It was just so bouncy. So we'll see what this looks like. We'll compare it to the other shock, and if we need to, we can redo it as well, but we're going to try it out. Need a little bit more. You want to get enough shock oil in there to make sure that when you put your bladder on there, you can kind of let it seal on without any air being in there. Maybe a little bit more still. And then you can kind of compress out the extra, because you don't want air bubbles in there. No air bubbles. There we go. See, when I put it on, a little bit came out, just a tiny bit. Then we'll go ahead and tighten this down, not all the way, but close. Make sure we can compress. Got a little bit of rebound there. I don't want too much. Go ahead and loosen a little. All right, there we go. Oh, still quite a bit. All right, let's back it off again. Compress a little more. I wonder if the shock shaft is actually hitting on the bladder. It's possible, but that's good. A little bit of rebound, and then it still has like droop. Once it naturally rebounds, you can kind of pull out a little extra. That'd be considered droop on when you're set up, you know, on an actual setup. But when the tires droop down from the chassis, when you take the sprung weight and remove it, and then it drops down, that's your droop. Anyway, all right. So I think we're good here. I'm going to go ahead and get this guy together, and we're going to see how it compares to the stock shock in oil. All right, got the new shock installed. Can you tell which one has the thicker oil? You can kind of hear it even. This one's definitely a little bit more dampened. Still a little bouncy. Still a little bouncy. But definitely better than it was. We could probably go even thicker. We could probably go 100 weight. That would be the thickest that we have here. But yeah, at least this is kind of still close to stock. It's not so thick that it changes how it's going to handle from what a totally stock rig is. But you can see that definitely is a little less reboundy, like how hard it rebounds, how hard it hits when it rebounds compared to this side. It's like just snaps down. Another thing I just noticed, there are holes for droop screws. So on the chassis, we've got these little tabs. And in the A-arms, there are little holes where you can put a grub screw into that hole right there through the top. Right here. And that little hole, grub screw, you can basically lower the car just a little bit with the droop screw. I mean, technically, you lower the car with the springs and the adjustment collar here. So softer springs or the adjustment collar is how you typically lower a car and get your proper ride height. And then you use droop screws to stop the car from, or to set kind of its maximum droop. So again, droop is when the suspension is sitting, right? You're sitting on the ground. And when you lift up the car, when it's sitting at its own natural weight with the body and everything, battery, everything, when you lift the car off the ground, how far does the suspension drop or droop, right? And so putting screws in here at those droop screw spots would prevent it from drooping more. Okay, so it would kind of keep your suspension sitting like this when you fully picked it up and removed all sprung weight, versus like this. So it just kind of depends on how you want your droop set. It's not for setting your ride height. Again, you should set your ride height through your spring weights, your spring stiffness, and your adjustment colors. That's the best way usually to do that. But yeah, cool that there's holes for droop screws, grub screws to put through there. These ones sit really far away from the, let's see, like these ones are like 2 millimeters, it looks like, away from the tabs. And then the rears are much higher. They're like double that, maybe 4 millimeters. I don't know if you guys can tell, but it's much higher from the tab. So you need a longer grub screw or just a regular screw to stick in there and kind of adjust that droop. Anyway, all right, we got to go ahead and put new oil in this shock so that they at least match. And then I guess we're going to go run it. Little pro tip, I use these hair bands to indicate whether a battery is dead and needs to be storage charged, or fully charged. When a battery is done fully charging, I'll do this. That way I know it's fully charged. When I run it, I do this. We run it down, and then we know it needs to be charged. And if it's balance charged and sitting in my storage, we do this. That way we know they're storage charged. Super simple way to keep track of whether a battery is charged or not. You don't have to constantly check with the voltage checker or whatever. It just makes it easier when you have a ton of batteries. All right, we're gonna get this in here. Oh, and I do want to show you that I dremeled this down just a tiny bit. I nicked the chassis, but just took it down so it's a little bit less intrusive into the battery. So it sits a little more flush. Did take the screw down. I can go down a little bit more, but I don't want to make the screw have nothing to grab onto. But yeah, that'll definitely help prevent it from getting poked, because it's pretty, I mean, you can see here, it's pretty raised. I don't know if you can see that right there, but it's pretty raised, and now it's a little bit more flat. So yeah, that should help. That way we're not damaging our battery. Let me show you how much more dampened this is. So with those oil-filled shocks, you can see some of that bounciness is gone. So I think that's going to be a big improvement. The front's still kind of bouncy. I mean, it's still got a little bit, but again, that's going to make it fun. Before it was like, much better now though. Feels less toy-like. I think shock oil is so important, getting it to like rebound properly, and that's really going to help how it handles and just how it looks when you're driving. You don't want to be driving over rocks and it's just doing this the whole time. You want it kind of doing nice little, being suspended with its suspension, not necessarily just the whole time. So that's going to help. I highly recommend going thicker oil on these. All right, we're going to go ahead and do a speed test real quick. Run it up and down. Seems like it's got some oomph. All right, let's see what we got. 36. Let's do another one. One more. Man, handles really well. Like, tracks really straight. Like, that's freaking awesome. Stop. Read. 36 again. 36 again. Let's make sure we got 2 records of that. Yep, 36 and 36. Alrighty. Now we need to go run it on some dirt. Oh. Woohoo! Those open dips doing work. This thing's a blast. And actually, the whole brake thing doesn't feel too crazy. It's less of like a basher and more of a race truck. Like, I bet you it's gonna have issues with air control if we're doing like big jumps. I mean, I braked there, it seemed fine. Yeah, I don't know. Doesn't seem horrible when it comes to braking, but definitely a delay. But I think it's way less noticeable when you're treating it more like a race truck versus a basher. Oh yeah, see I braked there and it nose dove like crazy. Yeah, see? That was a full brake and it dove the nose. Seems all right. All right, we need to get on dirt. Little delay.
The next day.
All right, guys, we forgot to run 3S, so we're back out here running 3S. Go ahead and get our GPS set up. It's a different day. It started raining right after we did the last run. 3S is nuts on this guy. Look at this. Oh, did we just rip a wheelie bar wheel off? I think we did. Oh, we sure did. Oh well. All right, so we just gotta be careful. Let's go ahead and do our speed run. Gotta be careful because of these cars down here. Let's bring it back. Well, that was a tumble. Our GPS unit just fell off. Gotta go get it. Ugh. All right. We didn't actually mount it, so I'm not surprised. We just kind of fit it in here because it fit perfect. So if we're gonna tumble wumble, it's gonna fall out. It's pretty nuts on 3S though, I'll tell you what. All right, let's see what we got on the GPS here. Stop. Stop. Read 50. Hot dog 50. All right, let's go run in the dirt.
Speed rain, brushless burn, tear it up, it's our turn. No rules, no breaks, till the ground shakes.
This thing's so fun. And it handles so well. Oh, of course. I'm hitting like every single one of these, and it's smooth as butter coming over. And then the time I start just trying to show it and talk, I'm driving like garbage. Kind of wish I had a gyro, kind of. I mean, it gets. I'm only doing like half throttle here. See how smooth that was? Until I hit the tree. Super fun, super zippy. And that's like quarter throttle going over that. Oh! Oh! Well, guess that's a thing. Whoops, too much throttle. So what happens when that usually happens is because I went up on 2. And so when you stop the spinning of this wheel or this wheel, these spin twice as fast. So yeah, definitely blew the tire there because I throttled it while it wasn't on all 4s. Whoops. It is what it is. All right, let's go back to the bench, give you my final thoughts. So that's after some of that 3S ripping. Definitely feels like the motor gets pretty warm. ESC doesn't seem too bad. It's kind of hard to get there. 130, 140. Yeah, probably close to 140. Motor's 160. It's probably a little bit hotter than that as we walked inside here, so it's been a few minutes, but you get the point. You can feel it's pretty warm through the chassis here, but again, nothing crazy. Not that this really matters, but 112 on the chassis right there. Overall, cool car though, man. Alrighty guys, this thing is a blast. Absolute beast on 3S. It's super fun. I'm glad they gave us that spare because obviously we needed it. I think we kind of damaged that tire at some point. We kind of nailed the fence. I wouldn't be surprised if that kind of pulled it off the rim or split it or something. We also hit a piece of wood pretty hard, kind of one of the linings that go around the track, and a brick. We hit a brick too. So we hit quite a bit of stuff. Wasn't my best day of driving, that's for sure. But man, it held up other than that tire. And then I don't know what happened here. This might have been already due to a tumble wumble, and then when we launched it on 3S, it just broke it right off. It was already cracked, I assume. So yeah, that's a thing. That's not the end of the world though. But all the important stuff totally held up. I think every part of this rig is worth what you're paying for it. Well, except this guy. I'm not the biggest fan of this transmitter at all. It doesn't really feel good in my hand when I was filming. There's extra weight on there and I'm holding it up higher, so it's kind of pushing into my finger here at this little nubby. You could always dremel that down and make it feel a little bit better. But I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan. It's not the most responsive. It's not horrible. It's just a typical WLtoys transmitter, and I wish they would just upgrade to something proven, like a Dumbo or any of the other transmitter, Fly Sky, any of the other transmitters that a lot of the manufacturers are using, and give you a little bit more tuning, not just throttle dual rate and steering trim. I wish they had a little bit of steering dual rate. I wish you had throttle trim. It'd be nice to be able to change some of the settings on this ESC, but it is what it is. Again, it's an RTR, and at least it's got that external ESC, so we can pop out the receiver, swap over to a different transmitter if we want, get a new transmitter receiver, drop it right in, no issues. Or if we want to upgrade the ESC and keep that transmitter receiver, you can, because it's all independent, which is awesome. Steering seemed fantastic. Overall, just seemed great. Like, again, for what it is, this truck is awesome. It's fun. I think it looks awesome. Yeah, definitely be cool on a little bit bigger track, dirt track, some sand dunes, stuff like that. Put some paddle tires on it. Yeah, buddy. That would be fun. Again, huge shout out to Makerfire. Thanks to them for sending this out for us to check out. Definitely check out Makerfire. Awesome stuff. Fast shipping, great customer service. Never had an issue with them. And we've been buying from them for a long time. Actually, when we first came back to RC, I think one of the first places we picked up something from was Makerfire. So definitely worth checking out. And this truck, too much fun. Too much fun. We're going to go out and rip it again as soon as my battery charges, actually. And yeah, so thank you guys for hanging out. Huge shout out to all the channel members here. All these guys get to see videos before anybody else without ads. They also get priority reply to comments. Whenever they comment, I get to see those first. YouTube highlights them and shows me all the member comments first. They also have access in our Discord, which if you want to join Discord, down in the description below. But they have access to a specific channel in the Discord. The highest level members get other benefits. They get sticker sheets sent out. We got some awesome sticker sheets this month. And we've been sent out for this month and last month. So yeah, just awesome stuff if you want to help support the channel in that way. If you can't support the channel in that way, totally understand. I get it. It's not for everybody. But you can always just click that subscribe. It's just a click for you. It means the world to me. Also, hit that notification bell. Hit that share. Sharing is what gets it out there and lets people know. If you know anybody that's looking at this truck or any of the other videos that we've got information they need. Make sure you share. So also like. It helps the algorithm. Subscribe. Notification, share, like, all those things. Thank you guys for hanging out. Get out and build something awesome. Build a car, build a course, build a community, and then smash it, crash it, and bash it. Just don't break the expensive parts. You can always replace the tires. Easy peasy. Peace.